Question here. How many weeks does this go on?
Well, there's 24 books in the Odyssey. So we're on book 4. I think I'm planning to do all of them. I'm at least going to do 12. And we'll kind of make an impromptu decision at around 12, but we'll see. Where I'm going to start today is I want to do the same thing we did last time, which is take a look at the graphic novel that I was able to get from the library and to kind of do a summary of book 3, because Yasin, for example, was not here last week. Want to make sure he has the opportunity to catch up and figure out where we are. So Tiffany read most of the graphic novel last week. Here's the graphic novel. Actually, Tiffany, I'm going to ask you to I know there's nothing to read right yet, but you want to give an interpretation of the images?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember where we started last week?
So this ship is the one. Yeah, Telemachus is on this ship, I think, and he's gone over. Well, it's called Book 3, Pylos. I think we're in Pylos. We're going Pylos, and his ship is coming to the shore. Up here, we're in ancient Greece, so just right onto the beach where there are many people gathered. I don't remember exactly why.
Oh, they're
in groups.
Exactly. So there is a ceremony that is a sacrifice to Neptune, or Poseidon. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so it's just a religious festival. Actually, sorry. Even before we do that, let me take one further step back for Yasin and kind of give you a summary of books 1 and 2 before that. So Odysseus is the hero of the Odyssey. Odysseus is the guy's name. He went off in the Iliad. There's a 2-part series by Homer. There's the Iliad and the Odyssey. They can be read totally separately. But there's the Iliad's about the Trojan War. Odysseus has gone to Troy, and he hasn't come back. It's been 10 years since the end of the Trojan War, and he hasn't come back from Troy yet. And so what the Iliad is about is his family. So 2 things have happened. His wife's name is Penelope, and she is essentially good and righteous because it's been 10 years and she's still loyal to her husband. She doesn't want to get with another man. She doesn't want to move on. She still cries about him. So we like her because of that. At least this is the morality of the book. And so she has a son who is also Odysseus' son. His name is Telemachus. And Telemachus has been sent by Athena, who's the Greek goddess of wisdom, on a journey to try and get information about his father. And because his father is still alive, we as readers know, we learn at the beginning of the book that he is on an island. He got caught on the way back coming back from Troy. He's trying to get back to his hometown of Ithaca, Greece, not upstate New York, where he's trying to get back to his family and back to his rich man property estate, and and his status of leader of the community. And on that path, he's been captured by a nymph, which is like a demi-goddess. She's the child of. There's actually it's a New York Times bestseller. It's really good, actually. I read about 2/3 of it so far. I believe it's called Calypso. But basically, Calypso, it's a reinterpretation of the story, though. It's like Wicked. But Calypso is a nymph who has captured Odysseus because she loves him. And he's trapped on the island now for 10 years and wants to get home. And we know that as readers. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's more important. And then as Tiffany had started to say, Telemachus, again, that's Odysseus' son, the son of Odysseus and Penelope, is on his journey to find his father, set out by ship to Pylos. So I believe that's it. Does anything else strike anybody else as really important that I missed? Cool. Sounds good. Oh, one other thing that is important. There's a bunch of suitors who have moved into Odysseus' house and are trying to get with his wife, Penelope. It's been 10 years, and they're attracted to his wife because she's very beautiful. Of course, the hero has a beautiful wife who is aging very slowly, so it's all wonderful. 2, they're also eating up his wealth. They're eating up all of his wealth. They go there, they're eating all his food, they're killing his livestock, because that's what wealth is in ancient Greece. And so those are the two. So there's a bunch of suitors trying to get with his wife who are living in his house now as well, and we don't like them. So, and when I say we don't like them, I mean that's also clearly the message that you're supposed to have from the text. So, okay, I believe that's good. Anything else I need to add? Okay, sounds good. Okay, Tiffany, pick it back up then. I'm sorry about that.
Woohoo! So Telemachus has come to shore on Pylos, where he's come around to be like, hey, where's my father? Have any of you heard news? He hasn't gotten, but he gets there, and there he meets the big head honcho,
Nestor,
who's like, yeah, he's like, okay, and this is mentor, possibly still Athena disguised as mentor specifically.
Definitely still Athena, yeah, absolutely.
Who tells Telemachus to go speak to Nestor.
Sounds good. Keep going. You're doing great. So mentor.
Walking on the beach.
Keep going.
There they go, walking on the beach, walking to go find Nestor. All the people around them are preparing for this festival to Poseidon. Some of them are already sacrificing, eating, much merriment.
Sounds good. Let's take a look at the next image.
We have found Nestor. Strangers, welcome. Join our feast. Make an offering to Lord Poseidon, for this feast is in his honor. And we hand Nestor a goblet, which is important that he gets the first goblet. Lord Poseidon, whose dominion embraces the whole earth, hear our prayer. Glory to Nestor and all the lines of Neleus. Good fortune to every man of Pylos in exchange for their sacrifice. And swift success to Telemachus and myself in our mission. And so they have offered their offering. Telemachus and Mentor are welcomed to the feast. They partake.
Sounds good. Want to keep going?
Now that we have put aside our hunger, tell me who you are, guests. From what port you sailed? Are you merchants, perhaps, or men of war? Telemachus and all his, sweet boy, look at him, so worried. Nestor, son of Neleus, pride of Achaea, I will answer you. I come from Ithaca, but my business here is personal. I seek news of my great-hearted father, Odysseus, who fought with you at Troy. We have heard the fate of every other Achaean general, returned home or dead and buried before the walls of Troy. But of Odysseus' fate, I can learn nothing. I beg you, tell me what you know. Did you see him fall in battle, or ever hear of his end from any traveler? I pray, do not soften it out of pity, but tell me everything. And here Nestor starts rambling about everything that's happened since. This average, really old person trying to tell you a story, they lag and tell you everything around the story, which I always appreciate, to be honest. but in this case, the Odyssey is getting padded out by Nestor. My friend, you take my mind back to dark days. The Achaeans suffered many ills on that shore. I could not tell them all if you stayed with me 5 years to listen. Even after we breached the walls and sacked that great city, the gods had more trouble in store for us.
Then Mary, will you pick up on this page? Can you read that? I don't know how it comes across.
Agamemnon and Menelaus called a meeting that night when all were dumb with wine and bloody deeds. Menelaus was calling for the ships to sail homeward immediately, but Agamemnon wanted to stay and offer. Is that a person, or what does it mean?
I believe didn't we look this up last week? Didn't it mean libations? I think it was libations. I'm looking it up again right now.
Right. So Agamemnon wanted to stay and offer hecatombs, libations, to honor Athena. The king would not agree. The kings could not agree, and all the men went to bed angry. In the morning, Menelaus and half the fleet sailed off, myself and Odysseus among them, while Agamemnon stayed to make the sacrifice. But even among those who sailed, there was disagreement, and at Odysseus' urgings, some ships turned back to make peace with Agamemnon. I kept on, and Poseidon favored me with a good wind, so that I arrived home first, along with King Diomedes of Argos. That I know nothing firsthand of the other Argive captains, but I will tell you what I have learned since from travelers. They say Achilles' fierce Myrmidons returned safely with his son Neoptolemus, as did Philoctetes, Idommeneus, and all their followers. No matter how far away you live, you will have heard the songs about Agamemnon and his gruesome death at the hands of Aegisthus. But his son Orestes avenged the murder and proved that the line of Atreus is still strong. The Achaeans applaud Orestes, and his name will live through all times, for he has avenged his father nobly. I wish that heaven might grant me such vengeance on the manhunt, on the, I don't know that word.
Of the insolent
suitors of my mother, who plot my ruin, but the gods have no such happiness in store for me. Now that you have,
I can try and make it a little bigger. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. I just realized I'm not paying attention to who's speaking. This was
Telemachus.
The guy with the crown.
And this is Nestor.
Yeah.
This is Nestor.
Nestor. Okay. Now that you remind me, I have heard that your brother has many suitors who are ill-disposed toward you and are making havoc of your estate. Do you submit to this tamely, or are the gods and islanders all against you? Who knows, Odysseus may come back after all and repay these scoundrels in full, either single-handedly or with the force of the Achaeans behind him.
Okay, so let me I don't think this isn't necessarily, if you haven't seen this before, it's entirely understandable what just happened here. So I'm going to take a second and explain it. So basically Nestor, which is this artist, we're not looking at the graphic novel, this is just a quick summary of chapter 3. Nestor, who is the leader of Pylos, which is the first stop on Telemachus's journey to figure out where his father is. Nestor says, I don't know where he is. Basically what happened was, yes, I was in Troy with your father. However, Agamemnon decided to stay an extra day to do to offer hecatombs, wherever that was, hecatombs, yeah. Which I looked it up. It's not, libations are like wine sacrifices. Hecatombs are cattle sacrifices. So I did look that up just now. So Agamemnon decided to stay a day, offer sacrifices to the god in Troy. Menelaus. Or Menelaus, sorry, that's how I've been pronouncing it. I don't know how you 100% pronounce all of these, but Menelaus decides to go home immediately, and so Menelaus is home. He doesn't know any more information because Odysseus stayed with Agamemnon, again, who's the guy who decided to stay an extra day. So he doesn't have any information about Odysseus. What he does know, however, is that Agamemnon stayed, and eventually when he stayed, long story short, Aegisthus is a guy who ended up getting with his wife, with his being Agamemnon. So Agamemnon stayed the extra day in Troy, and Aegisthus gets with Agamemnon's wife, and basically he ends up killing Agamemnon. And so Agamemnon's dead, and when Agamemnon went home, his wife was with another man, and then that other man kills him. So then there's Orestes, who is the son of Agamemnon, and Agamemnon, or Orestes rights this wrong, essentially. Again, this is Greek thinking. One thing that we should notice is like differences in Greek values. And he rights this wrong by killing Aegisthus. And so there's a bit of a message here for Telemachus as well. Like, you need to kill the suitors who are trying to get with your mom, because if you don't, they might end up killing your dad, just like had happened to Agamemnon. So that's the information that we know. Okay, sounds good. And then Yasin, do you want to try and read this? We have 2 pages to kind of summarize the rest of the thing, and we can help you get through it if you can. So this is Nestor.
Yes,
I'm not sure who this is.
Please. I try my best.
Please.
I wish he would. Well, how can I spell it? Would. I wish he would, but I cannot believe it will ever happen, even if the gods would will it. What are foolish words? Telemachus, are good gods who can save a man half a world away. Besides, suffering a long years at sea is better than getting home quickly only to find a knife in your back, as Agamemnon did. Well put, my friend, and that's why you shouldn't leave your house long in the hands of scoundrels. Nevertheless, before you sail home, I would advise you to seek out Menelaus, the red-haired king in his palace at Sparta. He was the last of all the Achaeans to return, and in his travels he may have heard something more about your father. So there tomorrow, or if you would like, I will lend you a carrier to make the journey by land, and one of my sons will go with you as a guide.
Okay, so let me just summarize. We don't need to worry about this. What just happened here is Nestor, king of Pylos, tells Telemachus that Telemachus should go to Sparta. We've all heard of Sparta, Athens and Sparta. So he should go to Sparta and talk to Menelaus and see if Menelaus has any additional information about where Odysseus is. And Nestor, as a sign of goodwill, is going to even send his son to accompany Menelaus on that journey. Excuse me, not Menelaus. As a sign of goodwill, Nestor is going to send one of his sons to accompany Telemachus on his journey. Sorry about that. Okay, keep going here. Yes.
God forbid that the son of my old friend should sleep on the deck of a ship when I have got good warm beds of sheepskins, blankets, and deep piled rugs. You must be guests in my hall. That, Sir Telemachus, should do as you ask. But I must go back to give orders and reassure the group who they're all as ships are carried with swift horses, and one of your sons for a company.
Great. So what just happened here is Athena, who Tiffany had mentioned is disguised as a friend named Mentor. You don't have to remember that. Has said, I'm going to stay here. I'm actually not going to accompany Telemachus further on his journey. I'm going to watch over his ships because he and Nestor's son are going by land to Sparta. And Mentor, aka Athena, the goddess, turns into an eagle and flies away. So basically proving that she's a goddess. And so they all know this mission is divinely sanctioned. So she turns into an eagle, reveals herself as the goddess, turns into an eagle, and flies away. So they're all amazed by that. I think we're going to end there. I think that gives us a summary of book 3 because we're already 30 minutes in and we haven't opened book 4 yet. So I did find a translation that I believe to be much more readable than the last one, and it is also open source. It's copyright free. It's written in 1900 by Samuel Butler. So I'm hoping this is pretty good. So Tiffany, do you want to pick up at the beginning of book 4?
I would love to. A visit to the king Menelaus, who tells his story. Meanwhile, the suitors in Ithaca plot against Telemachus. I think we know what the summary of this chapter is now. I love titles that are so long, they're just the chapter summary.
Yeah, that's a translator.
The lying city of Lacedaemon?
Sounds good.
Lacedaemon. Where they drove straight to the abode of Menelaus and found him in his own house, feasting with his many clansmen in honor of the wedding of his son, and also of his daughter, whom he was marrying to the son of that valiant warrior Achilles. He had given his consent and promised her to him while he was still at Troy, and now the gods were bringing the marriage about. So he was sending her with chariots and horses to the city of Myrmidons, over whom Achilles' son was reigning. For his only son he had found a bride from Sparta, the daughter of Alector. The son, Megapenthes, was born to him of a bondwoman, for heaven vouchsafed Helen no more children after she'd born Hermione, who was fair as golden Venus herself.
Okay, perfect. You're going to keep reading, but let me just make sure we're all kind of on the same page just out of this first paragraph. So the they here, we're referring to Telemachus and the son of Nestor, who I can't quite remember. Again, Telemachus is Odysseus' son, and Nestor's son, whose name I don't have in my head right now. And they're going by land to Sparta. So we're on the way there, and they go to the abode of Menelaus. Again, Menelaus was one of those two people that we just heard about in the story from book 3. He is one of the warriors in Troy, and he's the one who went home first. who actually Menelaus, whom Nestor also returned from the Trojan War for, or Trojan War with. So that's essentially where we are. I don't think there's anything else I have to, but that's where we are. So we're on the way to Troy, and they drive into the home of Menelaus. Okay, keep going. Sorry, Tiffany.
No, it makes sense. So the neighbors and kinsmen of Menelaus were feasting and making merry in his house. There was a bard also to sing to them and play his lyre, while 2 tumblers went about performing in the midst of them when the man struck up with his tune. Telemachus and the son of Nestor stayed their horses at the gate, whereon Eteoneus, servant, he saw them, ran hurrying back into the house to tell his master. He went close up to him and said, "Menelaus, there are some strangers coming here, 2 men who look like sons of Jove. What are we to do? Shall we take their horses out, or tell them to find friends elsewhere as they best can?" Menelaus was very angry and said, "Eteoneus, son of Boethus," why do you know your servant's title? You must care about the servant very much. "You never used to be a fool, but now you talk like a simpleton. Take their horses out, of course, and show the strangers in that they may have supper. You and I have stayed often enough at other people's houses before we got back here, where heaven grants that we may rest in peace henceforward."
Okay, very nice. So you want to summarize what just happened?
He's got a very good pay-it-forward mentality.
Sorry?
Yeah. Oh, I'll get there when I summarize that bit. So Telemachus and the son of Nestor, because the son of Nestor has come with him, are waiting at the gate to come in. A servant goes to Menelaus and goes, "Oh my god, there's these weirdos at the gate. They don't look like good people. Should I kick them out or keep them?" And Menelaus is like, "Well, I've never taken you to be a fool. We have stayed with many people on our journey back home. We're going to let these people in." Sort of like a paying it forward situation. I like Menelaus. He's got very good sense of justice and care for others.
Yes. So that I think is very good. So a couple of comments. So these 2 guys show up at the gate, and one of the things that we're supposed to notice is this Greek value of I've heard people hospitality, exactly. The Greek word is xenos, CENOS, but that actually means foreigner. I don't know exactly, but the Greek value of hospitality. Exactly, Marion. What do you want to say? Is there anything you want to say about that?
It's not only Greek, it seems throughout the Middle East. It's a real honored value, hospitality to people who arrive at your door.
Absolutely. And we as readers, we have seen consistently already in book 4, the people who are hospitable towards guests, we can judge quickly as good, and the people who are inhospitable, we can judge quickly as bad. So for example, the suitors are very rude guests. They come in uninvited, they eat all the food, they eat too much, they stay too long, so we don't like them. Here, Menelaus, we can tell that he's Evgenos. So again, that's modern Greek, not ancient Greek, but good, of good blood, essentially, or of a good family, essentially, because he's polite. He knows that when guests come to your door, you give them what they need. And that contrasts even with his servant. We can see that he is kind of justly, again, I'm explaining this from the perspective of an ancient, from the perspective of what I believe and what I think most people would agree. This is what we are supposed to read. When I say we can agree that obviously his servant is not, he's justly above the servant, it's because he's more polite. Whether he's justly above the servant is a different question. I'm just saying that's what we're supposed to take away from it. So we see that he's hospitable towards them. We like them, like him. Okay, sounds good. Mary, do you want to pick up at 37?
Yes. So Eteoneus bustled back and bade the other servants come with him. They took their sweating steeds from under the yoke, made them fast to their mangers, and gave them a feed of oats and barley mixed. Then they leaned the chariot against the end wall of the courtyard and led the way into the house. Telemachus and Pistratus were astonished when they saw it, for its splendor was as that of the sun and moon. Then when they had admired everything to their heart's content, they went into the bathroom and washed themselves. When the servants had washed them and anointed them with oil, they brought them woolen cloaks and shifts, and the 2 took their seats by the side of Menelaus. A maidservant brought them a beautiful gold ewer and poured it into a silver basin for them to wash their hands. And she drew a clean table beside them. An upper servant brought them bread and offered them many good things of what there were in the house. Carver fetched plates of all manner of meats and set cups of gold by their side. Menelaus then greeted them, saying, "Fall to and welcome. When you have done supper, I shall ask who you are, for the lineage of such men as you cannot have been lost. You must be descended from a line of scepter-bearing kings, for poor people do not have such sons as you are."
Keep going.
On this he handed them a piece of fat roast loin, which had been set near him as being a prime part, and they laid their hands on the good things that were before them as soon as they had enough to eat and drink. Telemachus said to the son of Nestor, with his head so close that no one might hear, "Look, Bestratus, man after my own heart. See the gleam of bronze and gold, of amber, ivory, and silver. Everything is so splendid that it is like seeing the palace of Olympian Jove. I am lost in admiration."
One more paragraph. Oh, this is a big one. Then let's pause here, actually.
Okay.
That's a big one. Okay. Mary, you want to summarize? We didn't learn that much, but do you want to summarize what happened or what we learned here?
Well, we learned that Telemachus could recognize a great, gorgeous chariot and know that they were in the hands of somebody wealthy.
Right.
And then they're fed and dined and so forth. And, great chunks of meat and servants, different classes of servants even. Oh, and silver and gold and ivory. So this guy has really got gobs of money, wealth, whatever.
Exactly.
That's kind of what I take.
That I think you did a very good job of summarizing what we learned. So again, I would say two things here are highlighted strongly. The first thing that is highlighted is, again, the hospitality. So they're eating very well. They're guests. They don't have a connection with Menelaus yet, and they're eating very, very well. So that's, again, we have a very good impression of him as our ancient Greek readers. And the second thing that we notice is that Menelaus is enormously, enormously wealthy. And again, obviously we all want to be enormously wealthy. But one of the things is, I think today, there's kind of this thing where it's like somewhat against the wealthy. We do not get that at all in this book. There is Odysseus is very wealthy, and the suitors are bad because they're eating up his food. Now, to be fair, the suitors are bad because they're eating up his food and not doing any work, and they've been living there for like years, right? So kind of also fair enough, including from a modern perspective. But the point is, he's wealthy, and again, that's something that's very impressive. And there's no critique of his inordinate wealth. Okay, sounds good. Yasin, you wanna pick up us on 76?
Yes. Menelaus overheard him and said, "No, my sons can hold his own with you." What, you?
Jove. That's another word. So this translation sometimes says Jove, which is also Zeus, chief god.
Okay. For his house and everything about him is immortal. But among mortal men, well, there may be another who has as much wealth as I have. Or there may not, but at all errands I have traveled much and have undergone much hardship. For it was nearly 8 years before I could get home with my fleet. I went to Cyprus, Phoenicia, and the Egyptians. I went also to the Ethiopians, the Sidonians, and the Euambians, and to Libya, where the lambs have horns, and soon as they are born, the sheep lamb down 3 times a year. Everyone in that country, whether master or man, has plenty of cheese, meat, and good milk for the youth.
That means sheep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the year around. But while I was traveling and getting great riches among his people, my father was secretly and shockingly murdered through the perfidy of his wicked wife, so that I have no pleasure in being lord of all this wealth. Whoever your parents may be, they must have told you about all this, and of my heavy loss in the ruin of a stately mansion, fully and magnificently furnished, said I had only a third of what I now have, so that I had stayed at home. And all those were living who perished on the plain of Troy. I often grieve, and I sit here in my house for one and all of them. At times I cry aloud for sorrow, but presently I leave off again, for crying is called comfort, and one soon tires of it. Yet grieve for this as I may, I do so for one man more than for them all. I cannot even think of him without love, both bath, both food and sleep. So I miserable dust he made me for no one of all these experience worked so hard or wasted so much as he did.
Cool.
He took nothing by it and has left a legacy of sorrow to myself, for he has been born a long time, and we know not whether he is alive or dead. His old father, his long-suffering wife, Pinocchio, and his son Telemachus, whom he left behind him an infant in arms, are plunged in grief and on his account.
Very nice. Okay, so this is I mean, this again, the reason I picked this translation, Yasin, just so you know, they have beautiful newer translations. This one is out of copyright. So I'm allowed to, I have no issues with it. It was written in 1900, so it's 125 years old. So some of the English is pretty old. Tiffany, you'll have to tell me, for some of it. So for example, he says, would that I had only a third of what I have now. Would that apparently, 125 years ago in England, I don't believe anymore today. You'll have to tell me, Tiffany. Do you know what would that means, Tiffany? But would that means essentially...
It's a wish, I think.
Exactly.
It's a wish.
Exactly. It's expressing a wish.
Essentially, yeah.
So today we would say, if I only had a third of what I had now, that's like expressing a wish. 125 years ago in England, they said, would that. So would that I only have a third. So that's going to come up a couple of times. So there's some old stuff in here. Do you want to take a stab at summarizing or making any comments about what you just read, or you want me to kind of run through a couple of points?
Yes, I think you can make it better than me.
Okay, sounds good. No worries. I was gonna just a couple things here. So again, Menelaus is emphasizing his wealth, and which is fine. He's like, I'm such a rich man, blah blah blah. But I wish my brother, who's Agamemnon, again Aegisthus, who got with his wife, killed him, and then Orestes killed Aegisthus. So that's, he says, I wish my brother were still alive. Also, I do kind of want to throw out here, when he throws out these stories here, I went to Cyprus, Phoenicia, and the Egyptians. I went to the Ethiopian Sidonians, I don't know how you pronounce this, Arabians, and Libya. This is one of those things where, as you're an ancient Greek reader, how do you travel to all these places? Either by boat, literal rowboat kind of thing, or you walk. Obviously Cyprus you can't walk, and Egypt I guess you could probably walk. I don't know if there's a direct. I think there is direct. Yes, you'd probably walk to Egypt. Actually, you'd probably sail to Egypt. But my point is, Ethiopia, this is for most of the Greeks who are hearing this. This is this is crazy. I mean, even for us, right? They have a similar thing where, for us, these are also just crazy places. So part of the epic is the imagination it stirs, because people don't have Google. They can't Google anything. So the only way they have any information about the Ethiopians and the Egyptians, 99% of people, is from hearing the tiny percentage of people who have traveled there. So these are really fantastical places. And the Greeks, when you talk about what is that creature with he even shows up in the book with one eye in the middle of his head? What is that called? Cyclops. Thank you. Yes. People really believe that existed, because it's kind of you have lions in other parts of the world. You have different parts. So these are really fantastical places. So that's just a kind of a side comment about Greek, ancient Greek, how this would have sounded to an ancient Greek person. The second thing is we again have a very positive impression of Menelaus. He'd give up all of his wealth if he could have the people he loved around him. And then at the end, one of the people that he loves, of course, we're hearing about his old father, his long-suffering wife, Penelope, and his son Telemachus. He's speaking to Telemachus, and he doesn't know that. I shouldn't say he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. So, we're hearing he's like, and I loved Odysseus, and I'm just bringing that up very coincidentally. So, which it is coincidental. It's an ancient Greek literary style here. Like we're not supposed to be suspicious of anything there. So, sounds good. Any other comments before I hand it back to you to keep reading?
Yes, I have a comment, and it has to do with Penelope, the pronunciation of her name, because when I was a child and I would read that name wherever I read it, I always thought of it as Penelope. And it was only, I must have been in 8th grade or more until I heard it pronounced. It's like, oh my God, okay, got it.
That's funny. I used to... sorry.
There's all of these other Greek names. I really don't know a lot about pronouncing, but that one is stuck with me.
Absolutely. No, I used to say Hermione when I was reading Harry Potter until I was in like 3rd grade. I read Hermione as Hermione until I was in like 3rd grade because I never met anybody with the name Hermione. So, absolutely. Okay, Tiffany, pick it back up.
Mm-hmm. Thus spoke Menelaus, and the heart of Telemachus yearned as he bethought him of his father. As he heard him thus mentioned, so that he held his cloak before his face with both hands. When Menelaus saw this, he doubted whether to let him choose his own time for speaking, or to ask him at once and find what it was all about. While he was thus in 2 minds, Helen came down from her high-vaulted and perfumed room, looking as lovely as Diana herself. Adraste brought her a seat, Alcippe, a soft woolen rug, while Philo fetched her the silver workbox which Alcandra, wife of Polybus, had given her. Polybus lived in Egyptian Thebes, which is the richest city in the whole world. He gave Menelaus 2 baths, both of pure silver, 2 tripods, and 10 talents of gold. Besides all this, his wife gave Helen some beautiful presents, to wit, a golden distaff and a silver workbox that ran on wheels, with a gold band round the top of it. Philo now placed this by her side, full of fine spun yarn, and a distaff charged with violet-colored wool was laid upon the top of it. Then Helen took her seat, put her feet upon the footstool, and began to question her husband.
Okay, before we go any further, Tiffany, can you remind us who Helen is? Do you remember?
Helen of Troy, the Helen that caused the Trojan War. I won't say caused the Trojan War because it was technically the 3 goddesses who asked Paris to make the choice, but he chose to have the love of Helen, so he kidnapped Helen, and everyone was mad because she was engaged or married already. She had like a child already too, I'm pretty sure, but she was just taken away, so it started the whole Trojan War. But now the Trojan War has been won by the Greeks, so she's been taken home to her rightful country, and here she is. Hello, Helen.
Right. So let me summarize this. So there is an ancient Greek legend called the Judgment of Paris, where basically there is a wedding. Let me make sure. Yes. Okay. So there's a wedding among the gods, and every single god. This is just a story. This is not in the Iliad or the Odyssey directly. However, this is a story that people know in ancient Greece, just like most of us in Western society today know the story of like the birth of Christ or something like that. So this is just a story that pretty much everybody knows. It's called the Judgment of Paris, and it's also recorded in other ancient sources outside of the Iliad and the Odyssey as well. Like whether some of these other stories, like the Agamemnon story that we just heard, whether that's we don't have a ton of other stories recording what we heard in book 3. They may have been in circulation, they may not have been, we're not really sure. But the Judgment of Paris definitely is. And basically what it is there's a wedding of the gods, and every single god has been invited except for Eris. Eris is the goddess of discord, and so that's why she wasn't invited. Nobody wants to have the person who's like literally there causing conflict all the time to come to the party. So instead, what she does, and because she's not invited, she throws a golden apple into the wedding that says, this golden apple is for the most, I believe, beautiful, fairest, okay? No, but also, yeah, beautiful. Looking at the ancient Greek word, it says Kalo, which is like beautiful essentially. So to the most beautiful goddess here. So 3 goddesses are like, I'm the most beautiful. So that's Helen, who is the wife of Zeus. It is Athena, who we've heard about in this story already. She's the goddess of wisdom and patron goddess of Athens. And the 3rd goddess is Aphrodite, who is the goddess of love and, kind of sex as well. So the 3 goddesses are all like, I want this, I want this, I want this. Zeus, the chief god, doesn't want to pick among the 3 of them because he knows whoever he picks, they're going to be very upset with him. 2 out of the 3 are going to be very upset with him. Whoever he picks to decide who's going to get the apple. And so he actually hands the job off to Paris of Troy. He's a human, and he says to Paris, you can make this choice. So Paris decides he's going to make the choice, and all 3 goddesses come to him and try and bribe him. Helen promises him control of Asia. Athena promises him incredible wisdom and skill in war. And Aphrodite promises him the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, which is Helen, which is this Helen. When we hear about Helen, that's who we're talking about. Helen is the most beautiful goddess in the world, person in the world. And so that's what's promised to her, to him. So Paris thinks about the 3 options: Asia, supreme power in war and wisdom, or the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. And he picks the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. So therefore he says Aphrodite is the fairest of the gods, or goddesses rather. And so basically what that means here is then Aphrodite rewards Paris, kind of casts like a spell. I don't know exactly how she does it. And so even though Helen's already married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta, Helen runs off with Paris and moves to Troy, and that's essentially what happens. So because of that actually sparks the Trojan War in Greek mythology, because they're all so furious that she would abandon the king, that like it's righteous, and that the Greeks then attack the Trojans, sparking the Trojan War, and the Trojan War ends when they conquer, which is, by the way, the Trojan War is in modern Turkey, or Troy is in modern Turkey. There's still some questions whether that was actually Troy, but my understanding is that most historians believe that it is. And so the Greeks win the Trojan War. When this book says Achaeans, we can think of them as Greeks. Capture, and they take Helen back to Sparta. So this is Helen. She's back with her husband. I don't know exactly what happened with Paris, but yeah. And so that's essentially what happened. And we can also infer that this is part of why the gods backed the Greeks, like Athena, for example, backed the Greeks in the Trojan War, because Athena backs them because Aphrodite was essentially backing the Trojans, or backing Paris as much as she could. I don't think she really cared after she got the apple. But Athena is mad, and that's why Athena is opposed to Troy. So Greek mythology, very complex stories, all interwoven as this book shows. But that's who this Helen is. She's the most beautiful woman in the world. The Trojan War has been lost by the Trojans. It's been won by the Spartans. So she is back with Menelaus in Sparta, in her palace there. Any questions? Is that clear? Any questions or comments? Okay, sounds good. So I can't remember who was reading, but pick up where we left off.
Right. There she is. Okay.
I think we're here now.
Do we know, Menelaus,
Yeah.
she said, the names of these strangers who have come to visit us? Shall I guess right or wrong? But I cannot help saying what I think. Never yet have I seen either man or woman so like somebody else. Indeed, when I look at him, I hardly know what to think. As this young man is like Telemachus, whom Ulysses left as a baby behind him. Oh wait, is Odysseus being as Ulysses in this? Okay.
Yes.
I haven't been looking whatever people have been reading, so I'm like, wait, Ulysses, what are you doing here? That's a different character. When you Achaeans went to Troy with battle in your hearts, an account of my most shameful self. My dear wife, said Menelaus, I see the likeness just as you do. His hands are just like you. I'll say Odysseus. Odysseus. So is his hair, with the shape of his head and the expression of his eyes. Moreover, when I was talking about Odysseus and saying how much he'd suffered on my account, tears fell from his eyes and he hid his face in his mantle. He is right there. We're talking about Telemachus in front of him. Then, to distract Attis said, Menelaus, son of Atreus, you are right in thinking that this young man is Telemachus, but he is very modest, and is ashamed to come here and begin opening up discourse, one whose conversation is so divinely interesting as your own. My father, Nestor, sent me to escort him hither, for he wanted to know whether you could give him any counsel or suggestion. A son has always trouble at home when his father has gone away, leaving him without supporters, and this is how Telemachus is now placed. For his father is absent, and there is no one among his own people to stand by him.
Okay, perfect. Tiffany, you want to summarize what just happened in these 3 paragraphs?
Yes. Helen asks, hey, I want to ask who this is, but I would guess that this is Telemachus, Odysseus' son, because he looks just like him. And Menelaus is like, you know what, I agree with you. I felt just the same, except like when he was crying, and when he was crying about Odysseus, like clearly he's got a relationship with him. And Nestor's son, who came with Odysseus, said, yep, this is indeed Telemachus. We've come here so that you might tell him, like, is Odysseus okay? He's looking to see why his dad's absent.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. So, couple of quick comments here. So, whenever we see Ulysses, that name is Odysseus. So, this translation is using the Roman names, not the Greek names. And basically, we've now revealed, Menelaus and Helen are aware that they're speaking with Telemachus. Sounds good. Okay, Mary, you want to pick up here? Actually, hold on, wait. Let me jump forward because we're running behind for sure. Let me actually jump forward. I'm going to bump forward. You're muted, Mary. I'm going to bump forward a couple of paragraphs here.
We are always running behind.
Yeah, sorry.
We're very busy. We're yapping.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's important. Let's pick up here, Mary. And this says, this is now, I can't remember how you pronounce his name, Pisistratus, which is the son of Nestor, speaking here. Okay, or Yasin, you want to pick up? And oh no, Mary got it.
Yeah. Okay. Sir, my father Nestor, who, when we used to talk about you at home, told me you were a person of rare and excellent understanding. If then it be possible, do as I would urge you. I am not fond of crying while I'm getting my supper. Morning will come in due course, and in the forenoon I care not how much I cry for those that are dead and gone. This is all we can do for the poor things. We can only shave our heads for them and wring the tears from our cheeks. I had a brother who died at Troy. He was by no means the worst man there. You are sure to have known him. His name was Autolycus. I never set eyes upon him myself, but they say he was singularly fleet of foot and in fight valiant.
Okay, actually, Mary,
Mary,
I'm going to actually jump you forward. That was good. This is all kind of, context. It's important to carry a story along, but I'm going to jump forward.
Can you tell me what Jove is? I mean, I know he's a god, but what's his occupation or his particularness?
I'm sorry for that confusion. So again, the Jove is the Roman word for Zeus. So Jove is the chief god, and it's just the Romans call Poseidon Neptune. They call what I can't think of other ones. They call I would recognize their names, but I can't go in that order. But Poseidon, Neptune, Zeus is Jove, Odysseus is Ulysses. They have a bunch of. They're all Minerva. All right, see Tiffany.
Is she Athena?
Yeah, exactly. Minerva is Athena. That's good. I'm gonna jump forward here because I want to make sure that we get through most of the important stuff.
Well, you're looking at when I was in high school for our Latin class, which was in a girls' Catholic high school taught by a priest. Our textbook was full of Roman gods.
Yeah, I know. And there's a certain irony there, isn't it? That the ancient Greek pantheon had such an influence on Christianity. Absolutely. Definitely. I mean, we even the imagination of God the Father, I think, is very strongly influenced by the Greek image of Zeus. You know, if you think of what God the Father, if you had to visualize God the Father, we kind of think of like an old man with kind of like white hair, pretty buff, And Zeus is pretty much the same thing, except he throws lightning. Definitely very, very much influenced by the ancient Greek pantheon, for sure. Okay, Mary, let's pick up here instead. So this is Helen talking now.
Menelaus, son of Atreus, and you, my good friends, son of honorable men, which as Jove wills is, for he is the giver of both good and evil and can do what he chooses. Feast here as you will, and listen while I tell you a tale in season. I cannot indeed name every single one of the exploits of Ulysses, which is actually Odysseus, but I can say what he did when he was before Troy, and you Achaeans were in all sorts of difficulties. He covered himself with wounds and bruises, dressed himself all in rags, and entered the enemy's city looking like a menial or a beggar, and quite different from what he did when he was among his own people. In this disguise he entered the city of Troy, and no one said anything to him. I alone recognized him and began to question him, but he was too cunning for me. When, however, I had washed and anointed him and given him his clothes, and after I had sworn a solemn oath not to betray him to the Trojans till he had got safely back to his own camp and to the ships, he told me that all that the Achaeans meant to do. He killed many Trojans and got much information before he reached the Argive camp, for all which things the Trojan women made lamentation. But for my own part, I was glad, for my heart was beginning to yearn after my home, and I was unhappy about the wrong that Venus had done me in taking me over there, away from my country, my little girl, and my lawful wedded husband, who is indeed by no means deficient either in person or understanding.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Mary, so Venus is the Aphrodite, exactly. Actually, I'm going to jump in and then I'll let you comment, because there's two important points here.
Okay.
So we here have a story. This is Helen. This is Helen telling us a story about how wonderful Odysseus is. So one thing he did, we know how the Greeks conquered Troy. Yasin, do you know how the Greeks conquered Troy in mythology? Do you remember that story? Yeah, I bet you'll remember in a bit. Do you know, once you get the reminder, she hasn't given you the real reminder yet, but once you get the reminder in like 2 paragraphs, you're going to remember it. Mary, do you know?
Trojan horse.
Trojan horse, exactly.
Okay.
And so this is
like a gift, right? It was first of all a gift, right?
Yeah. So what is this?
So
what is the story? I'll be interested to hear, because we're gonna get one telling of it in this.
They gave them a gift, as a Trojan horse was a gift, an art. They say thank you very much. They accepted the gift, and in the Trojan horse was a lot of soldiers, right? And they entered inside the castle, out everybody, so they took over. And once conquered the castle, right?
Exactly. No, that's exactly correct. Yasin, exactly. Very good.
Trojan horse.
Right. So you will hear.
Like the Bible today, right?
Right.
Trojans.
Exactly, where you think it's a good thing and then you open it up and it actually kills you. You think it's a gift and then you open it up and it actually kills you. So so the first part of the story Helen tells is that Odysseus, it says Ulysses, but Odysseus, I'm going to stick with the Greek name. Odysseus first enters the city and gets information about the city he disguises himself as a beggar. He actually literally beats himself up, so he has wounds and bruises, dresses himself in rags, so puts on terrible clothes that are dirty, and enters the city like a beggar. And then using this, he enters Troy, and no one even cares, because, you avoid homeless people kind of thing. Like, that's the logic here. So, Helen recognizes him, however, for who he is, but she promises not to give him away. And so, but he returns back, and on the way out, he actually kills a bunch of the enemies. He just starts killing people on the way out and gets a bunch of information. And now one other small thing. The second point I want to make here is we get little bits of Helen's story here, which we're unfortunately just not going to have quite time to look through all of them. But one is she's like, I was unhappy about the wrong that Aphrodite had done me in taking me over there, away from my country, away from my little girl, and away from my lawful wedded husband. So there's this kind of, so here, in other parts of this book, we'll hear different things where we'll hear her. So here she's saying, I'm unhappy about the wrong that the goddess had done to me by taking me over to there. So she's, in this part, she's giving up any blame for going to Troy. She's not responsible. It's the goddess who is responsible, which also, according to Greek mythology, is somewhat true, right? Because Aphrodite decided that Helen was going to go to Paris. So it's not her fault in many ways. And then in other ways, we're going to hear she's going to be like, I made such a bad choice going over there, blah, blah, blah. And so you kind of have this, like Greek, what is the word? Like impression. The only word that's coming to mind is the word Vorstellung. You have this Greek line of thinking that the gods both directly influence you, and you kind of do whatever the gods make you do, but then at the same time, you are also responsible for your own actions, even if they're divinely influenced, kind of thing. So that kind of is common and we'll hear Helen do both in this book. So in this book, she'll both be like, Aphrodite did me wrong by making me go over there. And then on the other hand, we'll also hear her being like, I made such a mistake. So, sounds good. Okay. Then, Yasin, pick up here.
Then when they announced that all that you have been saying, my dear wife, is true. I have told much and have had much to do with fears, but I have never seen such another man as Odysseus. But endurance too, and what courage he displayed within the woman horse. When all the birds of the air gives, were lying in wait to bring death and destruction upon the Trojans. At that moment you came up through us on wood, but with wizard world to the Trojans must have set you on foot. You had deep purpose with you. 3 times did you go all around our hiding place and had to called or choose each by his own name and mimicked all our lives, dying Ulysses, and I found our seats inside, but what a noise you made. Diomed and I could not make our minds whether to spring out then in there or to answer you from inside. But Odysseus held us all in check, so we sat quiet still, all except Antiplos, who was beginning to answer you when Odysseus clapped his 2 bony hands over his mouth and kept them there. It was his that saved us all he, muscle and claws too. We never took you ever again.
Okay, very nice. Good. Okay, so what I want to note here is essentially what Homer is doing is attributing the myth of the Trojan War to the Trojan horse to Odysseus. So Homer is saying Odysseus is the guy who came up with the Trojan horse. So within what endurance and courage Odysseus displayed when within the wooden horse, wherein all the bravest of the Greeks were lying in wait to bring death and destruction to the Trojans. At that, some god who wished you well, some god who was behind you, probably Athena. Some god who wished well to the Trojans must have set you onto it, and you had Diaphobus wrong with you. Sorry, that was a mistake. Nope, not Athena. So 3 times did you go all around our hiding place and pat it. So the Trojans are walking around, knocking on it, being like, You called our chiefs. They call into the horse and mimic the wives to see if anybody's going to come out. And then people were debating: should we spring out? Should we not spring out? But Odysseus is the one who's like, don't get out of this horse. They're suspicious. Don't get out of the horse. So we all sat there quiet and still, except for this one guy. And then Odysseus was like, no, and put his hand over his mouth and kept him there. So he was the one who kind of saved the plot. And so that's the information that we get. So if it hadn't been for Odysseus, the Trojan horse would have failed. Okay, sounds good. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna do two things. We're gonna spring over a big chunk of the chapter now. What happens essentially is we're going to hear the story, or we are not going to hear it. But if you read all of book 4, what would happen is you would hear Menelaus' own story of returning from Troy. He basically he gets captured in Egypt. He has, of course, it's an epic, so there's all these kind of side stories. But one thing that he learns, that's actually the part I want to read. So we'll jump forward. That's the only other part I want to read. I'm going to jump forward here. One thing, Rosy Finger Dawn. You remember that, Mary?
Yes.
What is the word for that? Do you know what this is? What literary?
It's sunrise.
Right. Well, yes, absolutely. But I meant, what is the word for this repeatedly used descriptor that's descriptive of this particular thing? So, God like Odysseus, Rosy Finger Dawn. What else have we seen? The wine dark sea. It's an epithet. That's the word I'm getting at. So I'll ask you next week. Okay. So here we're getting the story again. Rosy Finger Dawn. The wine dark sea. God like Odysseus. We're gonna hear. So
question: how does that become epithet? I mean, to me, an epithet is like something you yell at a person that's bad. A bad thing.
Really?
You yell at a person that. Yeah, like, oh, you're a bastard or whatever, something like that. That's kind of, I don't know. Obviously,
really?
There's another. Yeah.
So
it's a literary.
It's a literary device. Let me actually look up. Let me make sure I'm not misleading you. Epithet. Okay, so we're asking the dictionary here. Epithet. E-P-I-T-H-E-T. Oh, look at this. Wow. Literally, if you Google it, what is this from? This is from the American Heritage Dictionary. The first definition is a term used to characterize a person or thing, such as Rosy Finger Dawn. That's so funny. It's literally the one that they chose. Or the Great in Catherine the Great. Or the great emancipator for Abraham Lincoln. Oh, here we go. But the third definition is a disparaging or abusive word or phrase, which I had not heard of before. So I just learned a different definition for epithet. I only knew the literary device.
Okay, well.
Huh, that's funny.
Good. Thanks for looking that up. Yeah.
So basically, where we are right now is that Menelaus is on his own journey back from Troy. Again, Menelaus is the king of Sparta. We heard about him in the last book. He's the king of Sparta, and he's recalling to us his own journey back from Troy. We skipped over most of it. Okay, he is speaking with someone named Proteus, who has information. I'm not even going to worry about that. So I would appreciate it if, I believe Yasin just read, right? Or was it Mary who just read? Mary, you want to read starting at 554? Who is speaking now is Menelaus is recounting his own journey back from Troy, and someone who he's encountered along the way. His name is Proteus. That's the person who's speaking now. He answered. That's the information that we're having here. So you can pick up.
Proteus is a shapeshifter, but what's his name in Greek? Do you know that?
I think it's Proteus. I'm not even sure if it's Proteus in this version. I'm pretty sure in Greek it's Proteus.
Okay. So the third man, is that where you start?
Yep.
Or on this side? Okay. The third man, he answered, is Ulysses, who dwells in Ithaca. I can see him in an island sorrowing bitterly in the house of the nymph Calypso, who is keeping him prisoner, and he cannot reach his home, for he has no ships nor sailors to take him over the sea. As for your own end, Menelaus, you shall not die in Argos, but the gods will take you to the Elysian plain, which is at the ends of the world. There, fair-haired Rhadamanthus reigns, and men lead an easier life than anywhere else in the world. For in Elysium there falls not rain, nor hail, nor snow, nor Oceanus breathes ever with a west wind that sings softly from the sun and gives fresh life to all men. This will happen to you because you have married Helen and are Zeus's son-in-law.
Perfect. Very good. Well, let's pause there. So I'll have you read in a second. So what just happened, Mary? What just happened in this paragraph?
I can't tell because I'm so busy reading words, I don't get meaning.
No, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, and also, again, it's kind of...
Odysseus, this golden isle where everything is wonderful.
Well, okay, so two things happen. So that's true. The first thing that happens is Proteus reveals to Menelaus, who is recounting this now to Telemachus, that Ulysses, who is Odysseus, sorry, again, we're switching between Greek and Roman words, but Odysseus, is in an island where Calypso lives. And he can't get back. He wants to reach home, but he cannot get back, but he doesn't have any ships or sailors to take him over the sea. So now Telemachus knows where his father is. He's on the island where Calypso is. The second thing that happens is we get a prophecy that things are gonna go very well for Menelaus, which, as we've heard, does happen. He's super rich. So that's the other thing we kind of learned there. So those are the two things. Okay. The next thing, so now I'm going to jump forward here. Yasin, it's going to be your turn in 1 second. So we're getting we get kind of more of the details of the two chatting, of Menelaus and Telemachus chatting. Of course, he's being very kind. Menelaus smiled and took Telemachus' hand within his own. It shows that you come of good family. You can have the finest and most precious piece of plate in all my house. It's a mixing bowl by the god Mars, the god of war's own hand. It's made of pure silver, blah, blah. So very, very friendly host. So that sounds good. And the other thing that I wanted to highlight here, so they're happy, essentially. Let me look at the time. Okay. So I didn't find the exact passage I was looking for right now, but that's okay. What happens essentially is they're very happy. Telemachus and the son of Nestor are very happy to know where Odysseus is. And so they leave happily. They've had this great exchange with Menelaus, super rich man, married to the hottest woman on earth. And they're very happy about it. They've had this great exchange. They leave with the information that they wanted to have. So that's all good. The next thing that happens is there's one last little thing that we want to highlight here. So Yasin, will you pick up here?
Yes. Meanwhile, the suitors were forming this and aiming with spears at Amar on the level ground in front of Ulysses' house. And what we heard was all they bought his lands. Engineers and Telemachus as a wing leaders, and much of the foremost among them all were sitting together when Noemon, the son of Phroneus, came up and said to Antonius, "Have you any idea, Antonius, and what day Telemachus returns from Pylos? He has a ship of mine, and I wanted to cross over to Else. I have 12 good males. There with your yearling now full hours by the sun, not yet broken in, and I want to bring one of them over here and break. They were astounded when they heard this, for they had made songs that Telemachus had not gone to the city of News. They true, he was only away somewhere in the farms, and was with the sheep or with the swineherd. So Antonius said, "When did he go? Tell me truly, and what time did he?" did he take with him?
Perfect. Yes, and let's stop there. So, very good. Thank you very much. Do you want to summarize what we learned here, Yazin?
And it was very hard for me to summarize.
Okay, no problem. No problem. So what happened here is we have these suitors, right? So these suitors are the people who have moved into Odysseus's or Ulysses' old house and are trying to get with his wife. And we don't like them. They're bad. It is kind of an oversimplified morality here sometimes from a modern perspective, but I think as a group, we don't even hardly know any of their names. Like there's one or two names that we know. We don't like the suitors. They're trying to get with Odysseus' wife. They just discovered, they're having a conversation, and they just discovered that Telemachus has gone on a journey to find his father. Or to get information about his father. And so they're starting to ask, they're being like, when did he go? Who did he take with him? Blah, blah, blah. And so now the suitors are trying to get information about that. We have 5 minutes. So what essentially happens here? Yes. So Yazin, pick up here this paragraph as well.
In God, he of heavens, this voyage of Telemachus is a very serious matter. He had made sure that it would come to nothing. But the young fellow has got away in spite of us, and if I take a clue too, he will be giving us trouble permanently. May Jove take him before his full ground. Find me a ship, therefore, with a crew of 20 men, and I will lie in wait for him in the straits between Ithaca and Samos. He will then rule the day that he set out to try and get news of his father.
Perfect. Thank you. So what happened here is one of the suitors is like, oh my goodness, this voyage, this trip that Telemachus is on is a very serious matter. We should make sure that he does not succeed in getting Odysseus back, that it comes to nothing. However, Telemachus has had some initial success, has got away in spite of us, and picked a whole crew too. So soon, if he gets back, he will be giving us trouble. He will create problems for us suitors. We're living in this house. We don't want to get kicked out. May Jove take him before he is full grown. AKA, I hope that Jove, Zeus, God, kills him. I hope he dies before he becomes a man so he can attack us. Find me a ship. And find me a crew of 20 men. I'm going to lie in wait. That means secretly, I know he's coming back. I'm going to wait for him to come back. And in the straits, that's in the waters between Ithaca and Samos, doesn't really matter. And he will rue the day. Rue the day means regret. He will, be sad. He will rue the day that he tried to set out and get the news of his father, meaning we're going to kill him before he succeeds in bringing his father home. Mary, 3 minutes. Read just like two sentences here.
It was not long ere Penelope came to know what the suitors were plotting, for a manservant, Medon, overheard them from outside the outer court as they were laying their schemes within, and went to tell his mistress. As he crossed the threshold of her room, Penelope said, Medon, what have the suitors sent you here for?
Pick up here now, Mary. Pick up here.
Oh, okay. Then Medon said, I wish, madam, that this were all, but they're plotting something much more dreadful now. May heaven frustrate their design. They're going to try and murder Telemachus as he is coming home from Pylos and Lacedaemon, where he has been to get news of his father.
Perfect. And then
Penelope's...
Hold on 1 second. Let me jump forward. The last thing I want to highlight here. So basically, now Penelope, Telemachus' mother, has heard this from the suitors, or she's gotten word from her students or from her servants, aka slaves, that they're going to kill Telemachus. So of course she's very upset about that. She cried aloud as she spoke, and the goddess heard her prayer. So a goddess has now heard her prayer. And okay, it's time to wrap up. So I will just summarize this. You are asleep, Penelope. The gods who live at ease will not suffer you to weep and be so sad. Your son has done no wrong, so yet he will come back to you. And so she hears this in a dream, essentially. She hears, I believe that's true. I hope I'm not misleading you. But basically, the goddess comforts Penelope and says, your son is not going to get killed. We're not going to allow the suitors to kill your son who has done nothing wrong. So that's essentially where book 4 wraps up. So that's what I wanted to get through today. Hour and a half, we made it. So we can talk for 2 or 3 minutes. Yazin, how did it go for you?
Yes, I learned a lot of lessons for the life today, right? Like sales, entrepreneurship, yeah, like the situations, like how marketing is working today, like 3 years, 3 years, right? For entry the customer mind maybe. So there are a lot of lessons for the day to day, I believe. A lot of marketing stuff people using these strategies, right?
Absolutely.
And today,
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't know when the book came out.
The book came out about 3,000 years ago. It's about 3,000 years old. Maybe a little less than that, but probably 2,900 years old or so.
It's very crazy that the people are not changing about, right?
Yeah, right. Well, fortunately, there are. I mean, I think there are some changes in the sense that we're not like, we're not like, I hope that, like, there's a lot of people who die and they're like, yeah, this person's dead now. That's one thing that we usually are, in my view, a little better about today. But absolutely, I mean, yeah, plenty of stuff here is modern, relevant. And Mary, how'd it go for you? I feel like this book, I was like, I'm going to read the whole thing this time, because last time we got through most of book 3, I think this book was just longer. And so we skipped a lot more than I planned, but that's okay. So next book, I will go back to pre-filtering, I think. Sorry, but how'd it go for you, Mary?
It's interesting to follow the travels of Menelaus. No, not Menelaus, the Telemachus, and that versus the people who are left at home, the mother and the suitors. They're all carrying on in their own ways. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of something that jumped out at me. And one other thing that I found myself, where you have these profound thoughts, mine come in the shower. And I was wondering about Odysseus, the whole book thing or story. I mean, I assume it's an oral story that was passed on generation after generation. But I wonder if the tellers would stop and say, now, listen to this. Look at what he's doing to her. And then go off on some story that had a point to make.
Right.
That's that kind of education as well.
Right, absolutely. I see. Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. You're saying the narrator could have made a point right direct. Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
something that occurred to the narrator as a guide for kids growing up.
Right.
Sort of.
Yeah. Well, again, as we have revealed, we've already had a prophecy. We've already seen this in a prophecy. This was in book 2, Yazin, in a prophecy, that all of the suitors will die. And that is going to happen at the end of the book. As I mentioned, I believe in book 2, like essentially in ancient Greek literature, I know so far, again, I've probably read about 50 books that were written, or 50 works of literature that are from ancient Greece or so. I'm just estimating, I don't know exactly. And anytime a prophecy comes up, it's going to be fulfilled. And so I don't feel like I'm giving anything away here. So we have seen prophesized that all the suitors are going to die. And so that's, I think that's something that they're going to hear. And one other thing about this is these stories. So I think that's a great point, Mary. I totally agree with you. I think it's very interesting. And I think it's an important literary, comment on, I think it's a very good point. One other thing is these books are intended to be read one orally, as you already commented. Like, this is not intended to be read, really. It is in its own way, but the original story is intended to be an oral story performed by a bard, which is a traveling storyteller, for crowds at nighttime, especially because nobody has TV or anything, obviously. And because of that, there's only so many stories that the bards have memorized. That's part of why Greek mythology is a complex web of so many stories, and we have different versions of all these stories. Like the Judgment of Paris is one we talked about today, where Paris has to pick the most beautiful goddess, and he wins Helen as his reward. But one thing is, you hear this story so many times, and these two stories in particular would be memorized verbatim. And so because of that, you're not supposed to only hear it once. So every time, you know how it ends, so you judge kind of people also according to outcome, I think. Sorry. Any last comments before we wrap up?
No, thanks for doing this.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining me. If you want to join again, I will. Was this translation more readable? Cool. Was this translation more readable, Mary?
Yes, it was. And more readable, but the god's name, like Odysseus and Ulysses, that's kind of distracting, but it's more readable.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll take one more look and see what else I can figure out. I might also cheat on the copyright stuff, because when you get a modern translation, it's so much better. I mean, it's just because it's also, when the Greeks hear it, it's also modern Greek, right? So, or at the time, it was the modern language. So we'll see. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. If you want to join again, Yazin, I'm going to be doing this for at least 8 more weeks. So join me if you can. I would love it. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.